All right, so let's say you're thinking about jumping into the world of instructional design, see if it's a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today we're really diving deep using these excerpts from RoleCatcher.com.
Okay.
It's a website all about, career development and all that.
Yeah, they've got some really interesting insights, especially about how this field, it's not just about making a good-looking PowerPoint. It's more about crafting these really engaging learning journeys, you know.
Yeah, give me the rundown. I'm all ears.
So instructional designers, they're like the architects of learning, right?
Yeah.
They take this deep understanding of how people learn best,
Yeah.
all those learning strategies, and use them to make education actually effective
Okay.
and even, dare I say, enjoyable.
So less about just the pretty slides and more about the science behind those aha moments.
Exactly. Like, think about Bloom's taxonomy, right?
Mhm.
It outlines all these different levels of learning. You go from just remembering facts all the way to actually applying that knowledge in creative ways. And a good instructional designer, they're using that framework
Yeah.
to structure their courses in a way that really makes sense.
Okay, that's starting to click. I'm seeing the depth here.
Yeah.
But how does this actually work in practice? What are the tools of the trade for these learning architects?
Think multimedia. It's not just one thing. It's videos. It's those e-learning modules. You've got simulations, sometimes even games. They're using authoring tools to put all this together.
Authoring tools.
Yeah.
Break that down for me.
So picture this. Software that's made specifically for creating digital learning content, right? Instead of just your static slides, you can build in quizzes, you can have these interactive scenarios, even branching paths where the learner's choices actually change what content they see next.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. That's way more engaging than death by PowerPoint.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of engaging, we got to talk about gamification.
Uh-huh.
RoleCatcher actually highlights that as a big trend in the field right now.
Gamification. Okay, so that's all about making it fun, right?
Well, it's more than just, fun and games,
Mm-hmm.
although those elements can be really effective, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But think about it, incorporating those game-like elements into something like, remember those software training programs you mentioned?
Right.
You could have points for completing different modules, badges for mastering skills, even leaderboards to add a little friendly competition,
Okay, you've sold me on the fun part. I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
But let's be real for a second here. Every job has its ups and downs, its pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing a field as dynamic as this has got to have its fair share of both.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Totally.
Yeah.
Every job's going to have those trade-offs.
Right.
But, got to start with the good stuff.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher, they highlight some pretty awesome perks for instructional designers, especially when it comes to, flexibility.
Okay, yeah. Tell me more about that. Because, in this day and age, flexibility is like gold.
Oh, absolutely. And it makes sense for this field. Right. If you're designing online courses, you're not exactly chained to a desk in a cubicle.
Right.
So a lot of instructional designers, they can work remotely. They've got flexible schedules.
Nice.
Which is a huge plus for anyone who values that work-life balance.
Huge, huge.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about the flip side? What are some of the challenges that RoleCatcher brings up?
So one of the big ones is that need for continuous learning, right?
Okay.
This field, the technology, it moves so fast.
Right.
Instructional designers really got to be comfortable adapting to those changes, always expanding their skill set.
So it's not a learn it once and you're good kind of career?
No. You got to stay curious. You got to be willing to embrace those new tools, those new technologies, and be ready to kind of shift your approach as the whole digital learning landscape changes.
That could be daunting for some people, but I imagine for others it's actually really exciting.
Oh, yeah.
To be constantly learning and growing.
Absolutely.
I imagine there's also a good amount of problem solving involved in this too.
Oh, tons.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher actually talks about this challenge of designing for a really diverse group of learners, right? You got to consider different learning styles, accessibility needs, different cultural backgrounds. It's a lot to balance.
It's about making sure everybody feels included, everybody feels supported in that learning journey.
Exactly. You can't just have a one-size-fits-all approach in this field.
Right.
That's where all those learning theories we were talking about come in.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the why behind different methods and using them strategically.
So we've got a good handle, I think, on like the core stuff of instructional design, what it is, the skills you need. But now let's talk about actually landing a job in this field.
Okay.
I'm really curious how RoleCatcher can help with that whole process.
So their platform is really geared towards helping job seekers.
Okay.
They've got some cool tools like this thing called RoleCatcher. It's a browser extension.
Okay, I've heard of browser extensions, but how does this particular one work?
So say you're on a job board, right? And you see a listing that you're like, ooh, that's interesting.
Ugh.
With RoleCatcher, you can save that listing to your RoleCatcher account with just one click.
Oh, that's pretty handy.
Super easy.
Yeah, instead of like bookmarking a million tabs.
Exactly.
Or trying to remember, like, where did I see that?
Exactly. It streamlines everything.
Nice.
But it doesn't stop there.
Mm.
They also have this AI-powered interview practice.
Okay, and that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
So they've got this database of over 120,000 interview questions.
Wow.
And that includes some that are specific to instructional design.
Oh, very cool.
So you can practice giving your answers, and you even get AI feedback to help you polish your delivery and make sure your content is strong.
Wow. That's going to take so much of the guesswork out of prepping for an interview.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you've used RoleCatcher, you aced the interview, you landed the job. What's next? Is there room for growth in this field?
Absolutely. RoleCatcher lays out a really clear path for advancement. So you can start at an entry level, move up to senior designer, maybe explore management positions, or even specialize in a niche area like we were talking about, like gamification.
So it's like leveling up in a video game.
Right.
You gain new skills, new
Yeah.
challenges.
I like that.
Each step of the way.
Yeah, and it really ties back to that idea of continuous learning,
Yeah.
right? This is a field where you can constantly grow and evolve and really carve out your own unique path.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, but I gotta admit, with all this talk about technology and how rapidly things are changing, there's a part of me that wonders, what about automation?
Mm-hmm.
Could AI come in and kind of replace the need for instructional designers altogether? It's a question a lot of people are asking these days, right? Especially with all the AI stuff going around.
Yeah, totally.
Because RoleCatcher, do they talk about that at all?
They do, actually, and it's interesting how they approach it.
Okay.
They actually highlight that AI is kind of reshaping the job market, but maybe not in the way you'd think.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
So they're saying that AI is being used more and more in the hiring process itself.
Interesting.
Like, those applicant tracking systems, ATS?
Yeah.
They're becoming really common, and a lot of them use AI to scan through resumes and cover letters, looking for specific keywords,
So it's like those systems are the gatekeepers now.
Kinda, yeah. And that's why RoleCatcher really emphasizes making sure your application materials are, like, optimized for these systems.
Oh, okay.
You got to use the right language, really highlight those skills that the algorithms are looking for.
Makes sense. So it's not that AI is going to replace instructional designers. It's just changing how you get your foot in the door.
Exactly. And that's actually where RoleCatcher's tools can be super helpful. They've got those AI-powered features to help you tailor your resume and cover letter.
Oh, interesting.
So you've got a better chance of actually getting noticed, by those algorithms.
So instead of being afraid of AI, instructional designers can actually use it to their advantage.
Exactly.
Nice.
It speaks to that whole adaptability thing, that continuous learning, which we've been saying, it's so crucial in this field.
Totally. Yeah, it's like you were saying earlier, it's a career path for people who are really open to change, embracing the new stuff.
100%. And as technology keeps changing, the role of the instructional designer will probably change right along with it.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a constantly evolving thing.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from like the nuts and bolts of what instructional design is to actually getting that job and dealing with all this crazy technology.
Yeah, it's been a good conversation.
It's definitely a field that requires, creativity, thinking on your feet, and that passion for helping others learn, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So really, it's all about knowing how people learn best and then using that to create these engaging, effective experiences, whether it's through those interactive modules, simulations, even those game elements we were talking about.
Totally. You hit the nail on the head.
And as technology keeps opening up those new possibilities for education and training, the work that instructional designers do is only going to become more and more important.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's been amazing exploring all this with you, and I'm really glad we got to see how RoleCatcher is kind of helping people take the reins in this really exciting field.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
It's a field with a ton of potential for personal growth and I think for shaping the future of how we all learn, which is really cool.
For sure.
And on that inspiring note, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of instructional design.
Fantastic.
Thanks for joining us.